In a previous video, I covered how to get Verus Miner up and running on your mobile phone. And today, we're actually going to be showing you a new method that you can pretty much set up, and you'll actually get improved hash rate. Plus, you'll be able to manage everything remotely from the comfort of your PC. So what I have here is I have a phone I picked up on Prime Day. So this was one of the common deals. I think it was either $30 or $35 on Prime Day. So we're going to go ahead and get this opened up. And we're going to get this one set up. Now the first few steps will pretty much be the same as last time. Where we'll mainly just be going through the setup screen. We're not going to enable Wi-Fi until we're through the setup screen. Then we're going to enable Wi-Fi, and then we will start with some configuration. So first thing is we're going to go ahead and power it on. Now these do have around 60% battery out of the box, so we don't need to really plug it in for the steps that we're going to be performing. Now, this specific phone is branded as Simple Mobile. However, it's actually a TracFone phone. So it's going to tell us there's a service provider update. We're going to go ahead and say OK. And it's basically going to apply the TracFone update. And then it will probably reboot. And then we can proceed forward with the setup screens. Once it's rebooted, we can go ahead and walk through the setup screen. So we're going to hit start. In this specific phone, the menu options are a little bit different. You don't want to say agree to all. Just want to do the first two options. Because the last one's going to send diagnostic data back. And then we're going to unselect pretty much all of the permissions. Hit agree. And then it's going to prompt for Wi-Fi. We're going to say skip. And we're going to do don't copy. And our time's going to default to Shanghai. I'm going to switch this to Central Daylight. And our time's actually off right now. We got our date in. Hit next. And we want to turn off all of the services. Hit accept. And we're going to skip the protect phone. That's going to be our lock screen. And we don't want to install the One Weather app. And we're going to skip Samsung account. We're going to skip that. And we're going to unselect both options on accept. Accept. Hit finish. And then we're going to let the phone kind of boot up into the OS. We're going to let it sit for a minute. And now we're going to connect it to Wi-Fi. I'm just going to swipe down from the top. We're going to hold down Wi-Fi. And we're going to get this connected to Wi-Fi. Now, once it's connected to Wi-Fi, we are going to be accessing this remotely. So one of the things I like to do is give it a static IP. You don't have to do this, but when you're running a bunch of different devices on your network, it definitely helps you find the phone. So to do that, we're going to go back into the Wi-Fi settings. And then next to our Wi-Fi connection, we're going to hit the little settings cogwheel. And then we're going to expand view more. And that's going to kind of drop down this menu of all these settings. One of those settings is IP settings. You can switch that from DHCP to static. And there you can kind of see the IP it already has. And for me, I'm going to start my phone farm at, let's do 151. So we'll go ahead and set this device to 151. 192.168.1.151, and it's already pulling kind of the other defaults. We can go ahead and leave those in place. And if we hit save, now we're pretty much done with the phone setup for the most part. The only other thing we can do while we're on the device, we can do this remotely, but I like to do this on the device. And this isn't required, however, this is something that I do on all my devices, is I go to Settings, About Phone, go to Software Info. We're going to be enabling developer mode. So we're going to go to Build Number and just keep tapping it until it says developer mode is enabled. And then we can go back a couple screens. We can go back to developer options. And I like to turn Stay Awake on. The reason I do this is whenever I walk by my phones, it's a quick glance to know everything is working. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hop on over to the computer and we're going to transfer a couple files over. That's going to allow us to get the miner up and running, kind of get everything managed remotely. We're back at the computer and we're essentially going to be looking at a couple things here. And one is, there's pretty much 3 steps to this. One is to run a VNC server on the phone so that we can remote into it. The second is going to be to install UserLand, which will allow us to run an Ubuntu terminal. And the third is to actually run the CLI miner. And so, first thing we want to do is we're going to hop on over to the GitHub for droidvnc-ng, and I'll link all these down in the description below. And if you want to read through all the features, you can do that. But essentially, in the end, this will allow you to remote into your phone as if you were standing right in front of your phone. And so we're going to go over to Releases, and we're going to download the latest APK. We're also going to do the same thing with UserLand. So we'll hop on over to the GitHub. We'll download the UserLand APK. And I already have those downloaded into a folder, along with a screen rotation. So I mentioned this before, with the AO3Fs, you need a screen rotation if you're going to put if you want to flip it and have the charging port at the top, which is what I do. I've already plugged the phone in. I'm going to go ahead and unlock it. So it's plugged in via USB, and it has prompted me to allow access. We have the AO3S internal storage, and then we're going to download. And let me go ahead and pop open another window. And we're going to drag all 3 files over to the device. And at this point, we're actually pretty much done with copying files over. So now we're going to hop back on over to the phone, and we're going to install all 3 of these. We don't really have to do a configuration. The only configuration we'll be doing is with the Droid VNC one. That's the most important one. So let's go ahead and do that now. Back over at the phone, we're going to go ahead and unlock this. And we're going to swipe up. We're going to go to Samsung, My Files. And actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and enable dark mode. This specific phone didn't prompt us during the setup for dark mode. So we can easily do that. Swipe down, scroll to the right, activate dark mode, easy peasy. Now let's go downloads. And here's all of the APKs we downloaded. And I'm going to start with a Droid VNC. This is the most important one. We're going to hit settings. And we need to allow My Files and then hit install. Okay, we're not going to open that yet. I'm going to go back and I'm going to install the other 2 files. Now you can install these remotely if you want, but since I'm in front of the phone, just super easy to just get these installed now. Hit done, screen rotate, install. Okay, now all of those are installed. Now we can open Droid VNC. And what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to spin up a VNC server on the phone. So I'm going to leave the port as default of 5900. I'm not going to give it a password. You can if you want. And I'm not worried about an access key. Move cursors. I like to flip this on. It's up to you. File transfer you can turn on and off, but You will be able to transfer files to it remotely if you want, using a VNC viewer, and then we're going to hit start. And here it's going to tell us a few things. So to be able to remotely control your device, you need to enable accessibility. Do you want to enable it now? We're going to say yes. And then you want to say installed apps. Click Droid, click on, hit allow. Then you can do back again, back a third time, and hit back one more time. And then it's going to talk about file access disabled. Hit yes there, say allow, and start recording or casting. We're going to say start now. And now what you're going to see is down here, it's going to tell you it's now reachable. It's going to give you your IP address. And if you remember, we set a static IP, and we can see it is running on port 5900. So now at this point, we can plug the phone in, kind of leave it that way, and hop on over and actually access everything remotely. But before we do that, I am going to rotate the screen. Once again, you can do this remotely if you want. I'm just choosing to do it on the device. One of the really cool things about the Screen Rotate app is that it rotates the display on the device. However, when you remote it into it, you always see it vertical in the appropriate orientation. So you don't have to worry about the screen being flipped upside down when you're remoting into it. So it's perfect. All right, so now we're going to hop back over to the computer, and we're going to do the rest of the setup from there. I'm back over at the computer, and now that phone's kind of all set up, it's plugged in, it's running VNC server, everything's kind of good. What we want to do is we need to install Tight VNC if you don't already have it. What Tight VNC is it's essentially a VNC viewer client. I already have it installed, so I'm just going to open it up. And it's going to pop up this little window. And we just need to put in the IP address of the phone, which is there. And then if you did choose to change the port number, I'm using the default, but if you change it, you could do colon the port number after that. We're going to say connect. And there you can see, you probably heard the phone ding a little bit there, basically notifying us that there is a remote connection. But you can see we actually have full remote access now on the phone. So what we can do is we hit home, and if you want to swipe up, you just click, hold, and drag and release, and it will swipe up. And what we're going to do now is we're going to install UserLand, and we're going to set up the Ubuntu server. So we're going to do Ubuntu, hit OK. We're going to say allow. We need to give this a username and password. I like to keep this simple, and so I'm going to do USER. Now on this pop-up screen, you cannot use your keyboard. So you do need to point and click with the mouse, so keep that in mind. The password, I'm just going to use one, so this is kind of like the default for Hive OS, but it just makes it easier to log into the phones. We're going to enter a password, hit continue, and we're going to do SSH. And this will take a few moments. This will download and install the Ubuntu instance kind of running within the UserLand emulator. Once the install is done, it's going to land you here at the login screen. Just hit 1, enter, which was our password, and it should get us logged in. Now, one of the nice things with Terminal is we are able to copy and paste. So the next step is to actually download and install the miner. And you have two options with this. If you hop on over to my GitHub, I have kind of this easy install script you can run. And if you do run this, this will download and install the miner. It'll create a config file that you'll have to go in and modify. The other option you have is if you have a GitHub account, which is free to create, you can come in and you can fork my repository. So once you're logged into your GitHub account, you'll just say fork. And then here you can name it anything you want. So I'm going to name this demo. And then we're going to say create fork. And this is going to basically take my repository and create a copy of it on your account. And any changes that you make, then you can pretty much just make changes and they won't affect me at all. So now, you notice we're on the demo one. We can come into the we can come into the config.json file and we can edit our pull information. So you can edit everything here on the PC and then do commit changes. So for instance, if you wanted to auto-convert to BTC, or if you just wanted to hold the coin, you could come in and do that. So we could do like C equals BTC. You could plug in a BTC wallet address here, hit commit changes, hit commit. And then when it downloads, it's going to download that one. For the purposes of this video, we're going to switch this thing back to Pigeon, hit commit. All right. Oops, I did not change it. Yeah, I did. Okay. Now, the other thing that you will need to do is you'll go to the install.sh file. You need to hit edit here. And here where it downloads the config file, you need to change this path. So you're going to replace the retro mic with your GitHub username. So in this instance, it's going to be 05 Sonic Blue. And then you're going to replace Verus CLI mining with whatever you name the repository. So I did Verus CLI mining demo. We're going to do that. And everything else is kind of the same. And you just say commit changes, commit. And it's as easy as that. Now what you'll be able to do is you will be able to grab this command, and instead of using my username and my repository name, you'll be able to use your own. And what that'll do is that will automatically download your pull information. So this is very advantageous if you have a bunch of devices. You don't have to configure the pull on each device individually. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hop back over to VNC. And if you right click, you can do a paste. And if you notice, it pasted pretty much the whole thing, but it looks like I actually copied a little bit more than I wanted there. So let's hit arrow at the end. And we're going to backspace some of this. Not sure why I copied all of that extra stuff. Let's go ahead and clear all of that out. Up to the bash. Okay. Now we can use our arrow keys. And we can swap out the names. So we're going to do demo. Oops, I cut out the G. And I'd advise doing this before you copy and paste, but for me, I just copy and pasted it. So then we're going to do 05 Sonic Blue, which is the username, and then we can run this. Now if we hit enter, this should download the script, and it's going to take a while to run probably. It's going to install all of the dependencies that are needed to run the miner. Then it's going to download the miner. Then it's going to download the config file. And in the future, whenever there's an update, you can just rerun the same command, and it will pull down that updated miner, and it'll also pull down the config file that is on GitHub. And once you see this where it says you can start it with this command, everything should be up and running. And now we can just do a slash CC miner, and you can just do C and then hit the little tab icon right here, and that, oops, you need to do a dot/C, hit the tab, it'll pre-fill that for you. Then you hit S, hit tab again, it'll pre-fill that for you. Hit enter. This should start the miner, and it should be mining on all 8 threads. And we're going to let that just start mining and check the hash rate here in a minute. Now, one thing I do want to mention while we are waiting for that to ramp up, here you can see it found the share already, is that the threads are defined in the config file. So if you do not have an octa-core phone, if you have a quad-core phone as an example, make sure you come in and change this to 4. Or if you have a hexa-core, make sure you come in and change this to 6. Make sure you are changing that to whatever core count that you have on your phone so that you are not overloading it. Similarly, if you want to leave one core open, you come in and change that to a 7. Once you save it, then rerun the installer script, it'll pull it down, and then you can run the miner again. So here you can see it is still ramping up. Right now we're sitting at about 3.7 mega hash. This should go above 4. So we're just going to let this run for a minute or so. And there we can see it has ramped up to about 4.7. Typically, if this runs in a cool environment, these will run anywhere between 4.4 and 4.8 mega hash. If they start thermal throttling because of heat, they might dip down to like 3.8 mega hash. But it is a big improvement over the GUI miner. And now at this point, the phone is hashing away. We can literally just close out of this. And there you probably heard the phone ding to let us know the session is disconnected. However, the miner is still running on the phone. And if we wanted to remote back into the phone at any time, we can just pop open, type VNC viewer again, hit connect, and there you can see, you heard the ding. You can see we're getting around 4.6 mega hash. Go ahead and close that again. You'll probably hear a ding again. And that's pretty much it. That's all there is to getting the phone set up. Now, if you want to tweak some things, like if you wanted to turn the brightness off, then you could do that as well. And you can do all of that remotely. So, sorry for the ding, you're going to hear it again. But we can essentially hit the home key here. Swipe up. Be a little patient because it is actually still mining in the background. But we can go to settings. And you can use your mouse scroll wheel on this as well. But we can go to display. Turn off adaptive brightness. Turn the brightness all the way down. And then hit back. And now the brightness is off. Similar, if we wanted to disable notifications, all of that, we could do all of that as well. And for software updates, I'm going to turn off updates. And that will just prevent the phone from kind of rebooting. And now we can do this. And we can see that it was still mining that whole time. Obviously that hash rate did dip down when we were doing some other actions. But that's it. That's all there is for this video. That gets you up and running remotely. And this will allow you to manage all your devices remotely at any time. You can just connect to them, verify that they are hashing, or if you need to make any type of configuration changes, you don't need to find the specific device or anything like that. I definitely recommend setting up static IPs on your phones for this.